Story 1. This happened a couple of days ago in Hollywood. I traded up my phone for the holidays on AT&T's website and arranged a pickup in my nearest store. The receipt I had for the pickup said that the phone was being held until December 30th. So I went in on the 29th to pick it up. I needed to get to work, and I wasn't going to be available to leave work during business hours, so it had to be then. I was hoping the whole process would take 15 minutes. It didn't. I get there and the individual, Ellen, tells me that my phone wasn't available because I had waited too long and they had canceled my pickup, even though I had until the next day to do so. I show him the email that says that, and he shrugs his shoulders and he says that they canceled the order because they counted the day I placed the order as one of the days towards cancellation, which is obviously stupid. Then he offered to sell me the phone that I was trying to pick up because it's impossible for me to pick up the phone that was being held for me. I just want my phone, so I agreed to go through the purchase process, and as it turns out, I will have to pay for the phone again and let AT&T refund the funds for the original order. Major nonsense, but again, this is all the time I have to pick up my phone. I asked him for the phone number for someone I can speak with about what is going on, and he tells me I need to speak to customer retention and gives me a phone number he pulls off a list. So he goes through the process, and by then I'm late for work, and he tells me he's having problems selling me the last unit of the phone I wanted to purchase. He tries to upsell me. I tell him that I want the phone I ordered and tells me that he's having some trouble because the system is not letting him sell that unit. It's the last unit he has, so he needs to take extra steps to sell it to me. So now he goes on his phone and makes some phone calls to try and unlock this unit. Meanwhile, he leaves me alone long enough to find out that the phone number he gave me was nonsense. It led to a non-working extension for AT&T, and it would just stay on hold. I went on Google and discovered this by finding the *actual customer retention phone number and calling it. So now I'm speaking with a customer retention specialist, and I explain to him what is happening over the phone. The retention specialist confirms that, yes, my phone is available for pickup and has not been canceled. Meanwhile, on his phone, I can hear Alan speaking with someone at AT&T, and the person he's speaking with says over the speakerphone, "I can't allow you to sell that phone. It's being held until tomorrow for customer pickup." So I asked the person on Alan's phone to repeat that and confirmed that yes, Alan was trying to sell me the phone that I had already purchased and was there to pick up. Then I asked the customer retention person I'm speaking with if he heard the other individual's comment. The customer retention rep confirms that he heard what the other AT&T rep has said, and the retention rep asks me to confirm the store number I'm located at and the name of the person I'm speaking with. At that point, Alan, upon realizing I'm speaking with customer retention and retention heard everything he's trying to do with my phone tells me to leave the store and tells me he's going to call the police if I don't. Customer retention rep on the phone hears him kick me out of the store. So I did my phone that day, but I did have it delivered to my house next day ups, which was nice, and I did get to have a conference call with a regional manager from AT&T. Along with a supervisor at customer retention and a manager for third-party dealer locations, while the customer retention specialist confirms everything I was telling them. I didn't get my phone that day, but I did ruin someone else's, and that was why more satisfying. Dispute over ownership of a property during a sale is not a police issue. If I had waited for them and refused to leave, they would not have taken my side, they would have arrested me. Ownership of a paid-for item at worst is a civil court issue, and no cop is going to arrest some dude at an AT&T store for not giving me my phone unless he had lifted it out of my pocket. Please stop suggesting I should have waited for the police. I was already on the phone with the corporate and late for work. Story 2. So as part of my actual job, my company sends me to different clinics to audit their invoices to ensure insurance companies aren't getting scammed for unnecessary or unperformed patient procedures. It happens more than you know. Normally, when I'm at a clinic, they'll stick me in an unused office or a cubicle so I'm out of sight and don't interfere with their normal operations. However, yesterday, during a clinic visit, They didn't have anywhere to put me except the front desk with the receptionist. This wasn't a problem for me since it does happen on occasion, and I'm just there to get the job done and head out. So, I'm sitting there at the front office desk, looking over the clinic's documents, when the receptionist gets called back to assist with a patient. After a few minutes, I hear someone cough slightly to the right of me and look up. I'll call her Karen because she had the haircut and the attitude. Karen in a rude voice, "I've been standing here for the past couple of minutes, and you've yet to acknowledge me. You should be ashamed of yourself. Is this how this clinic is run?" Me? "I'm sorry, ma'am. The receptionist just stepped out for a moment. She'll be back soon. I can't help you as I don't work here." She looks me up and down like she's judging how I'm dressed. I should mention that I'm dressed in standard business attire: blazer, shirt, tie, and black slacks, with my company logo and name tag hanging from a lanyard. How stupid do you think I am? You're sitting at the front desk of a clinic dressed like that, and you don't work here? I should file a complaint against you with your boss. Listen, ma'am, I've already told you I don't work here. Take it or leave it, but I work for company name and hold up my badge. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to get back to my work and ignore her. Karen, now infuriated, "How dare you? Do you know who I am? My husband works with the owner of this clinic, and he'll be hearing about your poor customer service skills." Still looking at documents, I say, "Good for him. I repeat, I don't work here. Wait for the receptionist." Karen tries to change tactics and fake smiles at me, saying, "Look, I'm sure you're busy, so I won't take much of your time. All I need to know is my daughter-in-law's next OB appointment. Her name is X. It shouldn't take you too long to find her on your calendar. I just need to know what time it is so I can be here to meet her." Now, looking at her, I say, "Are you deaf? I've already told you I don't work here, and even if I did, you're asking me to violate HIPAA laws. Do you know how serious that is? You need to ask her directly if she's actually willing to have you with her, though I doubt it. You don't know what you're talking about. That brat should have told me when she was scheduling her first ultrasound. That's my grandchild in there, and I need to be here to see him. Now tell me when her appointment is. Otherwise, I'll have you fired. You need help, lady. You need to leave now before I have someone call security. You're threatening me." The doctor and receptionist hear the loud commotion and come out to the front desk. "Doctor, what's going on here?" Me. "This woman doesn't understand that I don't work for you, and she's trying to find out about her in-law's appointment." Karen, now panicking, "Your receptionist here has been useless and won't give me the information I've asked for. He needs to be fired." Receptionist to Karen, "He doesn't work here. Doctor, I'll take care of this," and she intercoms the security office. "Hi, we need a guard to come to office 123 to escort someone out. She's disturbing one of our vendors and says, 'Thank you,' once they confirm someone will be here shortly." Once Karen realizes she's about to be escorted out, she says, "I'm not leaving. I have a right to know how my grandson is doing. I have a right." She starts shouting profanities at us for a couple of minutes when a burly security guard arrives and tells her to leave. Otherwise, he'll call the police on her for trespassing. She refuses, so he grabs her by the arm and drags her screaming out of the office. I was told she kept making a fuss, so they called the police, and they took her into their car outside the building. That was the last I saw of her, but the receptionist called the daughter-in-law to inform her of what just happened. After the call, the receptionist laughs and tells me that the in-laws didn't want the woman anywhere near her or her baby. It seems she and her husband have no contact, which explains part of the craziness. Story 3. I'm a 16-year-old boy and I have a passion for toys. I have always loved collecting them. It's a way for me to relive my childhood and bring joy to my little brother's birthday. I remembered the day my little brother first saw a commercial of the limited edition toy he wanted and how his eyes lit up. I knew that I had to get it for him, no matter what. So, on this particular day, I decided to take a trip to the local toy store to find the perfect present for him. I woke up early, got dressed, and made my way to the store, my heart filled with excitement and determination. I knew it would be a challenge to find it, but I was determined to make my little brother's birthday special. I walked into the store, and it was like a kid in a candy store. The store was decorated with colorful displays, and the sound of children laughing and playing filled the air. I couldn't help but feel a sense of nostalgia as I walked through the aisles, reminded of the days when I would beg my parents to buy me the latest toy. I knew exactly what I was looking for, a limited edition toy that my brother had been talking about for weeks. He had shown me the picture of it in a magazine and told me how much he wanted it. I knew I had to get it for him. I searched high and low, scanning every shelf and checking every corner of the store. I asked the sales associate if they had any left in stock, but they told me that it was sold out. I was about to give up hope and leave the store empty-handed when I spotted it, the last one sitting on a shelf in the corner of the store. The employee must have been mistaken. I quickly grabbed it and held it tightly, feeling a sense of accomplishment wash over me. I couldn't believe my luck. I had found the perfect present for my little brother. That's when I saw her, an entitled woman that we will call Karen. She stormed over to me, her face twisted in a scowl and her eyes fixed on the toy in my hand. She didn't even bother to acknowledge me as a person. She just demanded that I give her the toy. "Give me that toy," she said, in a demanding tone, her voice filled with anger. I was confused. I had just picked it up and was planning on buying it. I didn't understand why she thought she had the right to take it from me. "I'm sorry, I just picked it up, and I'm planning on buying it," I replied, trying to stay calm and assert my own rights to the toy. I didn't want any confrontation, but I knew I couldn't give up the toy, not after how hard I worked to find it. She was not happy with my answer, her face contorted in anger and her eyes filled with malice. I could see that she was not going to back down easily, and that's when she pulled out a pocket knife and held it to my side, threatening to stab me if I didn't comply with her demands. "Give me the toy now," she said in a creepy, quiet voice, her eyes locked onto mine, trying to intimidate me. I could feel the cold metal of the knife against my skin, and I knew that she meant business. I was terrified. I had never been in such a situation before, and I didn't know what to do. My mind raced as I tried to figure out a way out of this, but I knew that I couldn't outrun her or overpower her. I could only comply with her demands. I handed her the toy, and we walked to the cashier. Because now, on top of me handing it to her, she demanded that I pay for it. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I could feel the sweat on my forehead. I couldn't believe what had just happened. I felt robbed, humiliated, and violated. I just wanted to get out of there as soon as possible. As I was paying for the toy, the security manager approached us. He noticed the tension between me and Karen, and he could see the fear in my eyes. He asked Karen to step away from me and talk to him. He wanted to know what had happened and why I looked so shaken up. Karen, already agitated and furious, refused to step away from me. She was angry that her plan had been foiled and that the security manager was standing between her and her prize. She lunged at the security manager, trying to attack him. But the security manager was quick. He grabbed Karen's arm and twisted it, disarming her completely. He took the knife from her hand and secured it. He then detained her until the police arrived and arrested her. I was relieved that the security manager had intervened, and that Karen was no longer a threat to me. After the police arrived and arrested Karen, I was still in shock and shaken up by the events that had transpired. I knew that I needed to tell my mother what had happened, so I called her as soon as I was advised to do so by one of the officers. I told her everything, from the moment I found the toy to the moment the police took Karen away. She was horrified and immediately came to the store to pick me up. Once she arrived, she saw the state I was in, and she decided to press charges against Karen on the spot. She knew that what had happened to me was unacceptable and that Karen needed to be held accountable for her actions. She went to the police station with me to give my statement and to make sure that the appropriate legal action was taken. With the help of my mother, I was able to see that justice was served and that Karen would be held responsible for her actions. It was a traumatic experience, but it taught me that it's important to stand up for oneself, and it's important to speak up when something is not right. In the end, I gave the toy to my little brother, and he was ecstatic. But the joy of giving him the present was tainted by the traumatic event that happened before. But I'm sure I can overpass it in no time. Hopefully. Edit. After the incident at the toy store, Karen was arrested and charged with several crimes, including assault with a deadly weapon, extortion, and other related charges. Thanks to the help of my mother, who pressed charges on the spot, we were able to see that justice was served. The court found Karen guilty of all charges, and she faced a significant prison sentence for her actions. Story 4. Back when I was in college, I would come home over summer and winter breaks and work at a certain pretzel stand. I'd been there for a few years, casually knew the owners, but we weren't on a first-name basis. Worked with their son when he'd pick up shifts. Great kid, one of the few insanely wealthy people who never acted entitled and worked hard when he came to a shift, and I knew the general manager really well from the past few years working there. General manager of our 2 stores in one mall location had to take a month off for an injury, leaving 2 very dumb managers in charge. One refused to work anything but an opening to 3 shifts, 5 days a week, and the other would reluctantly do short closing shifts. Neither were competent at writing a schedule, and both just wanted to look good while doing 0 extra work. To top it off, we had a slew of newbies, including Change Girl. Don't get me wrong, I get it. Math is hard. That's why the register tells you the change to give to someone, but it doesn't tell you which bills or coins to give. General manager texted me and begged me to work the second location as a sort of assistant manager and to come do some PM shifts to close up and do drawers. I agreed because he was fielding constant complaints from the 2 full-grown in their 40s adults whining about their schedules. However, I was blissfully unaware just how incompetent everyone was. Short M shift manager hired a change girl with no interview. Other manager literally didn't bother learning names with his everyone do everything so I don't have to attitude. I started doing drawers and one was always off. Short, over, math on the daily report not making sense. I pointed it out to both managers who ignored it. Then my shifts at our second in mall location kicked in and change girl became my second person in the AM, whose job it was to come in an hour before opening 1 hour after me and run down to the main location to get restocking stuff in the change drawer while I made all the dough and prepped for the day. She was never on time. She couldn't follow a list and brought the wrong stuff constantly despite a very good cook working downstairs who would have happily helped. But nope, she's texting again. It started to become me sprinting around making everything, removing trays from the oven, dip pretzels in butter, rotate everything, pack up orders I was taking while she stared into space or confused drink cup sizes again. I couldn't take a break or clean up because she literally couldn't comprehend an order, and getting her to start cleaning anything was a Herculean task of arguing over why she wasn't supposed to have fake nails and how that wasn't a reason she couldn't mop a floor or wipe off a counter. It peaked when she walked away from an open cash drawer to ask me how to make 37 cents. Apparently my quarter dime 2 pennies wasn't adequate because she brought handfuls of coins over and asked me which one was the dime. She only had her dad's credit card. She's never used cash. She panicked and made me drop everything once because she hit $5 and the person gave her $10. I begged the manager to send help, and she refused, instead scheduling a third worker for herself. It culminated with being scheduled to pull a 15-hour day with only change girl working for half the day. Idiotic managers sent out a message with a huge list of new cleaning and stocking expectations plus no empty store rule. I was not going to be able to go to the bathroom, have a break, or even get anything extra done, and that was all going to be my fault. I was over it. I texted my recovering general manager to please look at the schedule, my reports on the disasters, and begged for help. He told me to fully comply and to just wait. So I maliciously and through sheer pettiness comply, and it's a nightmare. Lo and behold, change girl shows up, finally does a rundown to get restocking, and by then we are open, with no cash drawer. I'm trying to serve customers, and it's a mess. Suddenly, the son of the owner shows up, asks what's up, and I explain. He offers to go get the drawer for me and does, bringing it back to me before Change Girl gets back. He watches as she finally returns another 15 minutes later and brings all the wrong stuff again, doesn't unload, asks how to make change, and won't get off her phone. He leaves, and then Change Girl's shift is over, and she's gone. I'm solo while downstairs has 4 workers. The rest of the day is hell, and nothing gets done. A manager comes back to the mall for personal shopping after her very short 4 HR shift earlier and proceeds to yell at me for the disaster, just as the owners show up. She's pulled away for a little chat about her scheduling habits, and I talk to the other owner about the entire day's mishaps. Turns out general manager texted them a heads up and to go in today and see the camera footage. I finally get to go home after 2 workers from downstairs are sent to help. The next morning, I woke up to the most glorious phone call. A Manger will now only be working with Change Girl, and any discrepancy in the drawer being that manager's fault. A Manager has zero idea how to do literally anything except dip pretzels in butter and bag up orders. She doesn't know how to make the pretzels, neither does Change Girl. Both managers now have to do all their silly requirements they demanded the other workers do, and schedules were being taken over permanently by general manager on paid leave. I never got a crap schedule again. Change Girl got let go in 2 days. A Manger was fired in a week after the owners started monitoring her every day. The other manager kinda got their act together when our location was sent a temp from another store, and I got a raise as soon as our general manager came back. Story 5. It starts as all truly great sagas published on the internet begin, when I met a random guy through a friend at a bar in the city. Let's call the guy I met Mark for the purpose of this post. My friend had introduced me to Mark because for a few years leading up to that introduction, I shared an idea I had for a business with anyone who would listen. I was told Mark wanted to start his own business, had worked in the industry, knew a lot about the subject matter required, and thought my idea was good. Mark and I met up for a lunch. We hit it off. He said he'd start the business as the CEO and agreed to me taking a part-time operational role. I agreed to help solely in a part-time operational role because I couldn't afford to quit my day job. I put in 15% of the cash for 5% ownership since Mark was going to put in founder hours 80+ hours a week, and agreed to put up 85% of the cash, which was more money than I could afford to risk on a new venture. I worked part-time. I did what I said I would do. I even tried to be of assistance on things I had no experience with. I connected Mark with a fella I had done business with before. We will call him Paul. Paul and I got into a dispute ourselves, more on this later. Anyway, let's fast forward a few months, and I got into a dispute with Mark over stationery. Yes, stationery not being to his liking caused him to flip out. This was despite him picking the stationery out. Next up, the contract I got from Mark was not what we agreed to. The legal work required a few months to get done, and I had expected delays, but when I finally got it, the paperwork didn't represent what I had agreed to own. Not only that, but my investment wasn't being acknowledged under the terms we had committed to when I put the money in. Now, as I said, I wasn't able to risk much, and I only invested what I could afford to lose, so this wasn't a huge sum of money. I didn't want to make a big deal about it since the amount was small, and he began promising a new contract when the business could pay for the lawyers to make changes. I signed nothing. Then it worsened. Mark and I started to fight anytime we were in a room together. As I think back, it's almost comical how angry he would get in my presence. I have other things to do with my time than squabble over stuff like stationery, so I worked on my areas of the business and hoped things would grow. I stopped in whenever I could and would help out regularly as needed with as little Mark interaction as possible. Paul would intervene sometimes when Mark would get particularly difficult to be around. Anyway, fast forward about 2 years, and Mark can't help but tell everyone who will listen that the business is going well. I have no idea how well things are going because Mark isn't giving me any updates. I get a call around Christmas from Mark, He wishes me a happy holiday, then drops the bomb on me that he wants to terminate my involvement and refund my investment. I decline the investment refund and say I'm happy to no longer work with him. In my head, I think it's kind of hilarious that he thinks this will just end that easily, but I say nothing to that, according to him. Mark and I hang up with him, aggravated about my refusal to take the refund on my investment. Mark then sent me an email that I had resigned. This had no basis in fact, but certainly was creative about what we had just discussed. I corrected him immediately in a reply stating that he wanted to no longer work together, and that I can see that being the case, but want to discuss my investment. A few days later, Mark demands I come pick up a check for a reimbursement of my investment. I do not come and get it. Next thing you know, the company attorney huffs and puffs and tries to scare me with some strongly worded letter. This is the same idiot attorney who screwed up my contract to work on the business and my investment agreement. Let's call this attorney Mr. Cohn for the sake of this story. I sent an email response to Mr. Cohn that he screwed up. The company seems to be doing well, that I hear rumors about how well, that I want to be on this for the foreseeable future, and I will not take a one cash out for what I put in. The attorney then emails me back, stating in writing that Mark never accepted my electronic transfer into the company account. Instead, Mark has another company he accepted the money into, a company I've never heard of. A company that is different from the name of the recipient on my electronic transfer. A company that would be committing wire fraud to accept the money I sent. On that note, I did some sleuthing online. I found out Mark had been forming one company every month or two. Then there were media reports and documents he let slip in shared drives he forgot I had access to from when we agreed to work together. Mark was too cheap and stupid to pay for tech help, so he was using my shared folders I had created, and I certainly wasn't obligated to turn off the shares if he wanted to work out of them. Those documents showed me Mark had recently raised money in the company I sent the payment to at 200x the valuation I had bought into it at, and Mark didn't disclose my investment to the new investors. Mark had, however, put me on documents showing my ownership to previous investors. Not on documents I had ever seen before, but documents he had been sending around. When I share my suspicions that Mark is committing wire fraud with Mr. Cohn, I am told I am the one breaking the law by knowing anything about the investment documents the company has used. Mr. Cohn tells me that by not picking up my check, I will not be entitled to any money and to contact law enforcement if I think something illegal has happened. He cautions, though, that I'll be the one in trouble. Cue the malicious compliance. I let the different respective members of the Securities and Exchange Commission along with law enforcement know what happened to me. I provided them with all of the documents I had from the matter. It took about 5 years for the investigation to conclude, for charges to be brought, for a trial to conclude, and for Mark to go to jail. They say the government is slow, but they aren't kidding with just how slow. Maybe it was slow because Mark was running a large tens of millions of dollars large fraud. Anyway, Mark will be serving time for about 30 felony charges they found uncovering the details of his Ponzi scheme. He will be away for a long time. I never did anything wrong. With the information I was able to provide, Mr. Cohn ended up getting disbarred. There were other things Mr. Cohn did outside of what is shared in this post that I cannot share, or it could help to identify me to the folks involved. The investigators credited me with bringing the fraud to their attention. I gained an education, and I got to help bring down a crook. The sheer stupidity of Mark is that he didn't even follow the business plan I had. He just used it as a story to convince investors to give him money. It is a business model that works very, very well. It took a few more years, but I'm now in a position to be pursuing this business full-time, with people of high integrity who all work together to ensure each other's success. We expect to have an extremely profitable year in 2023 after proving the business model worked in 2022. Story 6. Back in the 1990s, I worked at my family's engine repair shop, located in an L-shaped building downtown. The shop had a back lot separated from the street by a brick wall topped with a wrought iron fence, with access only through the shop itself. On the opposite side of the building, we had an open parking lot with space for about 20 vehicles. The shop was situated approximately 3 small blocks away from the local hospital. At some point, the hospital decided to remodel and expand. However, because they were confined by the surrounding area, the only space available for construction was where their parking garage and lots were located. To accommodate this, the hospital implemented a new policy, limiting on-site parking strictly to emergency room visitors. They purchased or rented several parking lots around the city and organized shuttle buses to transport staff and visitors to and from the hospital. Reportedly, the staff parking lot was the farthest from the hospital, and the bus route added significant time to employees' commutes. The hospital also enforced strict rules. Staff were prohibited from parking in any lot other than the designated one, even if they were visiting doctors or specialists. Not long after, we noticed our parking lot filling up with vehicles. As the nearest business with an open lot, we quickly became a convenient option for hospital staff looking to save time. Initially, we dealt with the problem by having any vehicle with a hospital parking sticker towed. However, within 2 weeks, the situation escalated. We started finding keys dropped in our mailbox, accompanied by notes like, "Makes a funny noise when turning right. Please have it ready by 2 p.m. Following these requests, we would take the vehicles for brief test drives, jotting down notes if we noticed any issues. Of course, the individuals who left their cars rarely wanted to address the problems we found. My uncle, who owned the shop, quickly grew tired of these antics and came up with a clever solution. He decided to store these so-called customer vehicles in our back lot. I was tasked with moving the cars behind the actual customer and shop vehicles, parking them right next to the fence where their owners could clearly see them. My uncle then began charging for daily storage fees, and for every car we had to move to access a hospital staff member's vehicle. While I don't know the exact rates, they were likely around $100 per day. Retrieving a single car often required rearranging multiple vehicles, which could take me 40 minutes to an hour. As expected, the hospital staff were not pleased. They would complain loudly about the costs and delays, but my uncle remained calm and firm. If they refused to pay, he would instruct me to move even slower, saying, "Take extra care with this important customer's car," as he prepared the paperwork to file a mechanic's lien against the vehicle. Unsurprisingly, the problem soon resolved itself. What started as a full lot every morning dwindled to maybe 1 or 2 hospital staff vehicles by the time we opened. My uncle's ingenious plan effectively deterred the staff from using our parking spaces without permission, restoring order to our business operations.